Serious, what celebrity death hit you the hardest? Granny Mahara.
Robin Williams and Anthony Bourdain.
Robin Williams.
Robin Williams. His humor and spark brought so much light to the world. It is a little bit darker now that he is gone.
Chadwick Boseman. There was a picture of him looking skinner before his death, but generally he was considered to be at his peak, career and physical. It was really unexpected.
Jessica Walter. I love Archer and Arrested Development.
Phil Hartman. It was just such a sad story.
Heath Ledger. He was so talented and he was surely a good guy.
Mr. Rogers. As a kid growing up in Pittsburgh, so many of my afternoons were spent exploring a new world with him. I had a friend in college that I talked to after Mr. Rogers had passed, and he had said that when he and his brother were sad they both watched his show because it felt like somebody loved them.
Anthony Bourdain. The man was successful, he had many good friends, and yet he was so miserable he took his own life. Robin Williams' suicide I understood, his quality of life was going to go downhill fast. I feel like if Bourdain got the right help he could have had a happy life.
Chris Cornell. Grew up with Soundgarden and Temple of the Dog. The first Audioslave album came out when I was in high school. Epic sound, seemed like a great guy. I thought he was going to survive the grunge curse. The only one left from that era now is Eddie Vedder.
When Chester Bennington passed I was in such disbelief. Linkin Park played a huge part in defining my music taste, and I always loved Chester's singing and screaming. I can remember where I was when I got the news and everything.
Not exactly a celebrity, but Satoru Iwata. I loved many Nintendo games during his era as CEO, and after his passing I was in awe at how much he did personally to save games that were in development hell, as well as him choosing to take personal responsibility for the losses Nintendo saw during the Wii U by cutting his paycheck rather than letting go of employees. Truly an exemplary man if ever I've seen one.
Philip Seymour Hoffman. You can be clean for 20 years and are still at risk of relapse. He did lose one of his support networks, falling out with AA after drinking for the first time in decades. But if he's not safe from addiction, who is?
Carrie Fisher. Will probably be David Attenborough when he dies though.
Christina Grimmie. I used to follow her YouTube channel very early on, long before she became famous, and I was so excited that she made it on The Voice. Then one random day a crazy fan shot and killed her. Celebrity deaths don't really get to me, but hers hit me hard for a while. She had a very bright future ahead of her and it was all taken away in seconds.
Terry Pratchett. GNU Terry Pratchett.
Leonard Nimoy and Jim Henson.
Anton Yelchin faced with cold sweat.
Douglas Adams, author of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I was kind of a weird kid, had trouble connecting with people. Then I read Hitchhiker's Guide when I was 12-year-old and it was like a light switching on. The strange twisting logic, the absurdism, the silly, cynical ridiculousness of it all. It felt like, for the first time, I had found a worldview and perspective I could relate to. Douglas Adams became this almost mythical figure to me, this strange, distant person I could finally connect with. I desperately wanted to meet him, to be his friend. Then I learned that, a year before I'd even started the books, he'd died. It honestly crushed me, it felt I'd lost my best friend. I mourned him, and mourned the imagined relationship I could have had with him. Looking back, it was obviously a parasocial relationship, and my fantasies about this 50-year-old British author becoming buddies with a 12-year-old kid living in the US were nonsense, but I still felt it acutely at the time.
John Candy. I grew up watching his movies and then only learned he had passed away while scrolling through his IMDb 2 years ago. He died before I was born and I just never knew.
Chris Farley. Still get upset when I think about it and haven't watched I Am Chris Farley, since I think it will make me sad.
George Carlin. I grew up watching him and saw his live shows 3 times. Kinda felt like my amazing uncle died. Still miss him to this day.
Mac Miller. I was deep in my addiction at the time and looked up to him a lot. It really hurt me. I used it as motivation though to get sober. Then a year and a half later I lost my partner to addiction also. Please reach out for help if you feel like you can't live without substances. Your life matters. Sober life is beautiful.
David Bowie. I just sat on my bed and sobbed. It didn't help that I got like 15 texts and Facebook messages from friends and family asking if I had heard or breaking the news to me. ETA, wow, this blew up. Thank you for the awards. Love all you crazy cats.
For me, it was the death of John Dunsworth, Jim Leahy and the Trailer Park Boys. He was such a sweet soul.
Sam Lloyd aka Ted from Scrubs, Conchata Ferrell aka Berta from 2.5 Men. They weren't big celebrities but were a huge part of my teenage years as I struggled through growing up. Rip my friends, you will always make me laugh.
His name is Prince. And he was funky.
Avicii. And now the lyric. To show Avicii I was cool gives me chills from Mike Posner's song I like called I Took a Pill in Ibiza.
This for years randomly this guy's guitar videos show up in my recommended on YouTube, and in a lot of them the dog is just chilling there. Well, this week, he posted this video announcing the dog had died, and I cried. I usually am like, oh no, when a famous person dies, but it doesn't really impact me. But this dog, man, it got to me.
Amy Winehouse. She was one of those celebrities that you could clearly see needed help. You could hear it in her music. Now that voice is gone.
Neil Peart. Both my dad and I are big Rush fans, so it was heartbreaking knowing that we are never going to see him play live again. Edit. I'm happy to see so many share the same feelings. Also, thank you kind strangers for the awards, they are my first ones and I'm happy it was this comment that got them.
Stephen Hawking. My dad told me about it just before I went to bed and I spent a solid 20 minutes just sitting on my bed staring at the wall. Didn't get much sleep that night.
Byron Reckful Bernstein. This one hit hard. I think it was because he was so open about his mental health before he took his own life. What made it harder was watching all his friends' reactions to the news. Most of them were streaming live on Twitch when it was confirmed. R.I.P. Reckful.
Kentaro Miura.
Jeff Buckley. After releasing such an amazing first album, it seemed he had so much more to give.
Christina Grimmie. She wasn't super famous, but she was fairly big on YouTube and made it to The Voice and stuff, did some other things. She was shot dead signing autographs at age 22. It still hits me like a brick sometimes. I followed her for years growing up.
Brittany Murphy.
Lemmy from Motorhead. Teared up when I heard about him. Teared up even more when I watched Triple H's speech at his funeral.
Freddie Mercury and George Harrison.
Cameron Boyce. His death hit me hard because his birthday is only a couple months after mine. Having someone my age just die suddenly made me realize I could die right now.
Tom Petty also, RIP ETA. Also RIP my inbox. Y'all loved him, he'll be truly missed. Thanks for sharing all your wonderful stories.
Cameron Boyce. I grew up with him on TV as I religiously watched Jesse when it first aired. Guy was only a year older than I was.
Naya Rivera. So sudden and so awful how it happened.
Robin Williams, David Bowie, Alan Rickman.
Adam MCA Yauk. I was a huge Beastie Boys fan in high school, obsessive. I was holding out on going to concerts until he recovered from cancer because I wanted them to be my first concert. Then one Friday after school I'm showering to get ready for senior prom and my brother opens the door to tell me MCA died. I was devastated, but I still tried to have a good time. However, the DJs wouldn't play BB because all the music had to be pre-approved before the dance. It was a rough night.
Kurt Cobain. He was the most famous singer at the time. Which was part of the problem. I was a teenager too, so it made an impact.
Ayrton Senna. Don't know why, cause I didn't follow Formulas 1 at all, but I cried in my room. I was 9.
Tom Petty. My dad took me to see him live on my 12th birthday. Wildflowers was the first CD I ever owned. I was invited to play banjo on stage with a local band on New Year's Eve once for a Tom Petty cover. I have a lot of good memories of the musician and he was taken way too young.
Patrick Swayze.
Elliott Smith. He honestly just had so much left to give. Watching him grow as a musician from age 16 to 34 just makes me so sad that it ended so abruptly.
MF Doom BC. He died just as I started getting into his music. And then finding out that he'd been dead since October, so the whole time I've listened to him he was dead.
Dolores O'Riordan. Still not over her death.
Michael Clark Duncan. I don't know why, I think because he was a big dude, but such a gentle soul, it just hit hard.
Grant Imahara. I used to watch Mythbusters all the time and he was always my favorite.
Mitch Hedberg. I was huge into stand-up at the time, especially his stuff. He just hit his stride, and really deserved to have a much longer career.
Carrie Fisher. I was at work when I found out and told friend there that is a huge Star Wars fanatic. She started crying and got me teared up also. Worse to hear her mother died next day and had been saying I want Carrie back.
I was 19 when Tupac died and it still hits me to this day. So tragic and premature, he would have done such big things.
Gord Downey. Not only was the music great, he tried to make Canada a better place.
David Bowie. It just felt like a bit of magic left the world when he passed.
Alan Rickman and Jonghyun.
Eddie Van Halen.
Bill Paxton. The guy was iconic. I can't imagine the movies he was in without him.
Prince has followed him since my early teenage. Did not see that coming at all.
Selena Quintanilla. Hurt me hard even though she died years before I was alive.
May your day be filled with joy and happiness. And please remember to subscribe to Upvote for the best quality content every day.